It is really windy outside, so you might be able to hear the wind at points in this video. Alright, it seems they all come at once nowadays. Me pre-orders all show up at once. I should probably hold on to these and spread the videos out a bit more, but that sounds like a lot of effort. So here is another one. And now that this is 90s Fantastic Force, but before I open the packet, I need to say I think at least 2 epic collections have not been delivered. They have gone MIA for me. First is Daredevil Dead Man's Hand, which is unavailable on Amazon. The print run must have been so low that Amazon couldn't even fulfill their pre-orders. I was looking at my open orders and that caught my interest. And then after that I realised I didn't remember seeing the 90s Iron Man one on the list of things that I have pre-ordered. Okay then, let's open this up. The logo doesn't work off centre without the corner box. The background looks stupid. The actual issue didn't even have a flat background. It was shiny. These fucking lazy covers. This is Fantastic Force Epic Collection, the 90s. This is volume 22, collecting stuff from 1992 through to 1993. We have Fantastic Force issues 362 to 376, as well as 2 annuals and adventurers of the Thing. I have to tread lightly with this stuff because I reviewed an issue once and seemed to upset the majority by criticising it. This is by Tom Falcon and Ryan Paul, and on paper that is a great creative team. This should be a great Fantastic Force run, but other than the artwork, which is really pleasing, it is not a great run. It is a terribly uninspired, shambolic run. Fuck it, I'll just upset the majority again. We begin with Fantastic Force 362, guest appearance by Spider-Man. Get used to that. There are a lot of guest appearances in this run. And this issue seems the opportune time to mention the character regression that Human Fire gans through with this run. Before this, he was married to Kerry Washington. They undid that relationship in this run by retconning it as being a Skrull. And regardless what you think of that relationship or that retcon, they also ignored that Human Fire became an adult quite a while ago. And now he is back at college. He is back to being an immature butthead who annoys the Thing. He is back to being what he was in the Silver Age, and that is the common component running through most of the character developments in this run. So we have Spider-Man in this issue. He guest stars a bunch in this run, and there is a parody advert with Galactus Man. Another thing that this run doesn't have Ganon for it is it introduces new villains, and they are, quite frankly, effing worthless. Look, it is Oculus, the most original and exciting bad guy ever. Behold the awesome power of Oculus the Omnipotent, and die. Yeah, just really boring stories in my opinion. Here is Adventurings of the Thing number 3. It was a reprint series, but this issue had an all-new backup story, and I clocked that immediately as the picture they use in the 2006 Andy books for her profile. And also that picture of Kerry Washington there, I think that was her profile picture in the 2006 Andy books. And then we get to Affinity Wars crossovers, which begin with Fantastic Force 366. There is some okay stuff in here, and not just the art. Tom Falcon seemed to have a better grasp on what was going on with Affinity Wars than a lot of the other books that tied in with it. And stuff like this is actually useful. We are seeing things that happened off-panel in the main story. How Mr. Fantasticals got replaced with a double gagger. I am fine with this stuff. I actually think I have got all 5 Affinity Wars tie-ins as single issues. So yeah, we get to see how Mr. Fantasticals was defeated and then replaced. There is Pybok, the Power Scroll from that Dax the Destructoid miniseries I am reviewing. He was introduced earlier in this run in the story that retconned Kerry Washington into being a Skrull. I love Invisible Wife. That is all I have to say about this page. I love Invisible Wife. Big superhero gathering here, as seen in Affinity Wars issue 2. We get some nice little downtime moments with some of the heroes. We get to see Hulk and Thing. They are obviously fighting, but this time they have resolved to work out their aggressions through a game of, I want to say foosball, but it's also kind of like table hockey. What the fuck is this? It looks like foosball, but I have got no idea what game they're playing there. It's like a fucked up version of foosball. The things are on the wrong side. I want to point out this bit here because Human Fire, he is about to approach Fetish Fuel because he fancies her, and then he chickens out, and Fetish Fuel thinks to herself how she would have actually been up for it. Which is really annoying because we could have had a full issue which was just Human Fire, fucking Fetish Fuel, hardcore against the Fantastic Car. Hey, look, Robin, it is Dr. Droom. And then a big bomb goes off, and we have one of the stupidest Invisible Wife feats ever. She is able to contain the fallout from a gamma bomb within an invisible force field. It's too much. It is one of those feats that is just too much. Like when Wolfman survives a nuclear blast. Yeah, in general, I just didn't have much to criticise about these issues. Good art, and they tend to be doing stuff that I think complements the crossover. And then we get Invisible Wife in bondage gear, and the beautiful bald lady Moongarden at her feet. And here we start getting into something that I am going to criticise, which is this storyline that lasts beyond these tie-ins. Presented here as possibly being Invisible Wife's double gagger, we have a malice identity, which is when she gets all S&M and gets angry. And having this as a double gagger would be a nice little nod to the Jason Bourne story. But then it gets confusing, and it turns out that this maybe doesn't have anything to do with Affinity Wars, and Invisible Wife always had this dark entity that was trying to assert dominance over a physical form. And I said this in the issue that I reviewed. It's just a fucking excellent Men rip-off. A lot of this run was trying to make Fantastic Force a bit more like the Excellent Men, but by just copying them. You have this, and this is Dark Phoenix Saja stuff. Sexy, didn't get us wrong, but very clearly just a rip-off of Phoenix. And we're getting to the end of the crossover now, and I think Kazar is dead by this point in the story. This bit's a bit shitty. Tom Falcon inserts Invisible Wife into this scene that happens in Affinity Wars number 6, and just says that she was invisible and that she actually was responsible for the way the fight turned out. Love the art though, you will not hear me complain about the art. And after Affinity Wars, we have the woeful Citizen Chronos crossover, and Dr. Droom is in it. Dr. Droom is like one of the main supporting characters throughout. No wonder it's so bad. Well, yeah, it's just a mess of a crossover. Ugly art, a story that alternates between boring and confusing, and just ugly art. Let us say that again, ugly art. The art! Look at the art! That is disgusting. Hercules, man, needs to gander the doctors. That is awful. This is the art of Herb Trimpe. This is the artist who draws the first 2 issues of Starburst. Some people try to defend him nowadays and say that, oh, he was trying something different, but it's shit. Try something different if you want, but if it looks shit, abandon it. I am not sure if a different artist would make this story better or less hopeless. I think we will be getting the Starburst tie-in issues of Fantastic Force in the next Fantastic Force Epic Collection. Maybe we will also get the 3 Seaman tie-in issues, because the 2 titles were kinda linked during that crossover. Backups for the annual. Is this the annual with the most irrelevant backup story for an annual ever? Yes, it is. There is, in this Fantastic Force annual, a backup story starring Moongarden and Willow, 2 characters who have, at best, very, very minor connections to Fantastic Force. Moongarden, she got spanked by the Thing, and Willow, Steve Engeltine tried to add Willow to the team, but when the editor said that he couldn't, he quit the book. Awful Herb Trimpe art, but I think the bulk of the story, or the ideas within, they might have been useful to explore in Affinity Watch or something like that. And there is a pin-up of Fantastic Force, which you have to turn on the side to see, which I love doing. And then the middle halves of Thing and Invisible Wife are lost to the gutter. Because you demanded it, here is a pin-up of Fantastic Force facing Dr. Droom. I think the person who demanded it was Robin. And this here is the sort of crazy cover gimmick they did in those days. And here is the debut of this. brilliant. Just totally brilliant. I don't know how anyone could have any problem with this costume whatsoever. This is inspired. This is not inspired. I cannot believe people take umbrage with me saying that this is uninspired. This is just repeating something that Simon Waltonson did, hoping that it will improve sales. On Wolfman, he cuts up Thing's face with his claws. It's that really paradoxical thing about Tom Falcon comics. On one hand, he wants to do hard-fashioned Silver Age Fantastic Four stories, but then he wants to do 90s stuff, like have Thing get mutilated by Wolfman. There you see, the title looks better. The logo, it makes sense because there is a corner box there. This doesn't. I'm sorry, my enthusiasm for this is just very low. I didn't really care for the contents. The Ryan Paul issues, very nicely drawn. They look good. And there are parts of Tom Falcon's run that I don't mind. I quite like what he does with Mr. Doom's adopted son, and that is about it, really. Some people like this run, apparently. Good for them. If you like it, get this. If you didn't like it, didn't get it, didn't do what I did, which was pre-order it and then do a video where you just moan about the stuff inside being a bit crap. I rate this 7 boob window up. Like, can we get a version of this picture where instead of the number 4, it is the number 7?